I don't know if you guys are familiar with Serena Williams. She's a famous tennis player. Serena and Venus Williams, they're sisters. And as it turns out, they kind of were involved in Jehovah's Witnesses when they were younger. Serena Williams, worth like a ton of money, millions, one of the best paid sports players in the United States, I believe, just got baptized as a Jehovah's Witness not that long ago.
Yo.
I mean, there's nothing of real relevance to here, so I'm going to turn it down. But yeah, she's in the pool. I went through this exact thing. I got baptized same way with the guys in the shirts, the white shirts.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
They tell you to cover. You got to go all the way under. You can't have a single part of your body outside the water. So they're going to lean her back. She's going to cover her nose. There she goes, and almost. And now she's officially bound to this organization for the rest of her life. And if she decides to ever leave, she'll lose every friend and family member that she has ever had. Of course, it doesn't matter to her much, probably, because she's filthy rich. But yeah, she just signed a contract with an organization that will take advantage of her, who will suck her dry until the day that she dies. And when she dies, guess what? It doesn't end there. They expect you to will your stuff over to them. They tell you exactly how to will your possessions over to the governing body. Just disgusting. Just disgusting. Well, I guess the Watchtower Society, not the governing body, but still. One and the same, basically. So I got a voicemail kind of related to this. I just wanted to talk about that before listening to the voicemail. Check this out.
Hi, Owen. This is Alex from Northern California. I recently watched the film King Richard and was surprised to find out that Venus and Serena Williams were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, I think they were kind of tangentially in the organization a little bit, not entirely, because this is the first time that she's getting baptized. You only get baptized once as a Jehovah's Witness, no matter what. So, yeah, I guess she didn't really, join the organization when she was younger. She is a witness now, though, for sure.
And they appear to be actively involved in the religion today. I recall you mentioning in some of the Caleb and Sophia videos that Jehovah's Witnesses are often discouraged from being too ambitious or trying too hard in school or the pursuit of worldly possessions or economic success. Anyways, this got me searching to find out what other celebrities, athletes, public figures are JW, and there seem to be many. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on how high-profile Jehovah's Witnesses are perceived by the rest of the community. Do they help or hurt the religion? Are they recognized by the community? And if so, what level of influence do they have? Anyway, thanks for the work you do exposing religious and political nutter butters. It's so appreciated. Take care. Thanks.
Absolutely appreciate that. Yeah. There are a weird number of famous Jehovah's Witnesses. Prince was probably one of the most famous. He died in the religion. And they wrote a new songbook recently. Like, they sing a song at the beginning of each church service or each meeting and at the end of each meeting. And he helped write the new one that they just wrote recently. Of course, he died. So that was kind of his final contribution to the world, I guess, or to Jehovah's Witnesses. There's also Michael Jackson, famously, but Michael Jackson was actually not a fan of the organization at all. Honestly, Michael Jackson is a really weird guy, right? And I maintain that is just what happens to somebody, being that weird. When you are sheltered from society as a Jehovah's Witness and as a celebrity. He was sheltered from society for both reasons. So it was like he had no connection to the outside world whatsoever. And he just became weird because of it. Same thing happened to me. I was just weird when I was younger. I feel like I'm still weird. And it's a shame that this stuff happens to so many people. So anyways, there were actually a lot of other really famous ones. Biggie Smalls, Notorious B.I.G. He grew up Jehovah's Witness also. In fact, he's even mentioned the name Jehovah in one of his songs. Lots of famous Jehovah's Witnesses out there for sure. What's interesting, though, is that famous Jehovah's Witnesses like Serena Williams get a lot more latitude to break the rules than anyone else. This is Serena Williams accepting an award recently. This is not old. She's accepting an award in this dress right here. This is an unacceptable outfit for a Jehovah's Witness. She would be disfellowshipped for wearing something like this, or damn near it, dude. She wouldn't be disfellowshipped. Maybe she'd be reproved. She'd get in so much trouble for wearing this if she wasn't famous. Just shows a grotesque level of like a lack of care. Like they just don't care. They'll do whatever they want, and the governing body won't do anything about it because they know that they're going to get their money at the end of the road. So they just let them do whatever they want, break as many rules as they want, whatever, because they're going to get what they have at the end of it. It's just sad, man.
Hey, Ellen, I had a question. In Jehovah's Witnesses, they disfellowship and shun people for petty reasons, but they won't disfellowship and shun people for committing CSA? That doesn't make sense.
That's a good question. So there's a big problem with CSA, which is child mistreatment, for lack of a better term. Listen to the rest of this.
Why do they move them from congregation to congregation for CSA, but they disfellowship and shun people for other reasons? That just doesn't make sense to me. Could you explain that? Thanks. Bye.
Yes, good question. So Jehovah's Witnesses are in a lot of trouble right now with a lot of different governments and organizations and stuff, particularly in Australia. They got in a lot of trouble for this. They were moving people who committed CSA. They were moving them from congregation to congregation. That was the understanding. Well, here's what actually happened. That's what the caller mentioned. Let me explain the real situation. There was a specific memo in the Jehovah's Witnesses Elders Handbook. This isn't really open to the public. This is something that is only available to elders, which there are only 10 per congregation maximum. And they all have very specific jobs, and they lead the congregation. They're like co-pastors, basically, of each congregation, right? So they have an Elders Handbook that explains what they're supposed to do in certain situations. And in that handbook, they had a section that talked about something called the two-witness rule. Now, the two-witness rule is in the Bible, and it was intended to be used for a legal transaction. Like somebody wants to sell this donkey to you, and you have the money for it, but if there aren't two witnesses there to witness the transaction between you two, it's like the transaction never happened. He can claim anything at all because video cameras don't exist, because phone calls don't exist, because all this stuff didn't exist at this time. So you had to have two witnesses there to see that the transaction really took place and money was traded and goods were traded. That was the two-witness rule in the Old Testament. Well, Jehovah's Witnesses have taken the two-witness rule and applied it to crimes that take place, right? So if there aren't two witnesses to CSA or two victims, then it's like it never happened. They assume that nothing happened, and their Elders Handbook actually says, leave it in Jehovah's hands if two victims don't come forward or the guy doesn't admit it. Assume it didn't happen. So the elders weren't moving these CSA perpetrators from congregation to congregation. They just were not doing anything at all because there weren't two victims. They are supposed to call the police, morally, right? Call the police. If you find out somebody, or if there's been an accusation, somebody has committed CSA, call the cops. No, they're supposed to keep their mouth shut because there's no proof. Of course, there is proof. There just isn't proof sufficient to meet the expectations of the Watchtower Society, which is two witnesses or two victims. So knowing that there's a two-witness rule in place, that the elders will do nothing if there isn't a second victim, these CSA perpetrators would go to a congregation, they would victimize somebody, and then they would leave the congregation and move to a new one. And because there weren't two witnesses, elders have to pretend nothing happened at all. So they would keep their mouths shut completely. And these people were moving from congregation to congregation, a minimum of 20 congregations, I believe, this one guy went to. There were like a ton of cases of this happening back in the 90s, 80s and 90s. And the elders did nothing. And then, of course, Jehovah's Witnesses released a new elders handbook that was supposed to correct the problems of the last one. Didn't correct it. It didn't set anything straight. In fact, it made it even worse because they were aware of the problem by that time. And they chose not to fix anything. So that's actually what happened, and those are my actual complaints. If you want to fix the problem, if you're like a Jehovah's Witness elder, you want to correct it, put in the book explicitly and directly, call the police. If you hear of any case of somebody being mistreated or, CSA or whatever, call the cops. This is a crime, not a sin. You aren't investigators. You're Jehovah's Witness elders. Call the cops. That's how they could fix it. But I think 2 or 3 additions and or addendums past the 1990s version of the book, and it's still not there. Still not in the handbooks. Anyway, thank you for the call. Basically, the point that I'm trying to get at here is that, there was a loophole in Jehovah's Witness procedure, a loophole that could easily be fixed by the congregation, but the secular world pointed this loophole out that people were using to abuse people around them. And instead of just fixing the loophole, Jehovah's Witness, governing body members said, Jehovah never told us to fix the loophole, so I guess I'm just not fixing the loophole. That's the issue, really.
Hey, Owen. This is Cole. I'm from Texas. I've been listening to your podcast for a while, and I just have a couple questions for you. First off, what was the weirdest lesson that you were taught as a Jehovah's Witness, right? So, what was the weirdest sermon or lesson or whatever that you were told by your parents or by leaders at the Kingdom Hall or whatever? What was the weirdest lesson that you were taught?
Okay, well, let me pause there. We'll get to the second one in just a minute. The weirdest lesson I was ever taught, honestly, I think... All right, well, there are, weird urban legends that I could mention with Jehovah's Witnesses, and then there are, weird biblical beliefs. So, first, the weird urban legend is this belief that a Smurf doll came to life sometime in the 80s. It was a doll that was in a little girl's, backpack or whatever. She comes to the Kingdom Hall. This Smurf doll comes to life, crawls out of her bag, and runs out of the Kingdom Hall screaming and swearing the whole way because Jehovah's light was too bright for it, and Smurfs are evil. Jehovah's Witnesses believed that for a while, and when I was little, I was told about the Smurf story. In fact, any Jehovah's Witness that was alive in the 80s or 90s, or even 2000s, has probably heard the Smurf story in some form, to some degree. And it's just a really weird story to hear. Where did it come from? How did it start? And why did people continue to perpetuate it? It's just bizarre. Anyways, the weirdest teaching I think that they have is that Jehovah is God's name. That's really backwards. Jays didn't even exist until the 1400s. To claim that Jehovah is God's name is just a confusing mess. Then there's also, it's Yahweh. Yahweh is God's name in the Bible, actually. There's also the rule about not touching yourself. And if you do, then you'll turn gay. That's in a book called Young People Ask, I think. It was the edition from the 1980s and 90s. It was a red book. And I actually read that book when I was younger. I was expected to read some form of that book, some version or edition of it. Yeah, that was a really weird book. Maybe I should read through that section on my Telltale Reads YouTube channel. That could be interesting. But anyways, yeah, those are some really weird teachings that they had. Thank you for the question. Let's listen to the next one here. He had a second part.
And secondly, how do you find the material that you use to make your hour to hour long podcast every week on top of the countless different YouTube videos that you post, week after week after week? Because I personally think it's really impressive how you manage to find that much content to post so many videos about and so many podcast episodes about. So how do you find that content that you use to make the podcast and the videos and stuff like that? Because again, I think it's really impressive. And yeah, that's about it. Love what you do. Keep it up. And yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call. Really interesting question. How do I find all the content? Well, I know that I can talk about something for each minute of something that I have, I can talk about it for 3 minutes, basically. So if I have 5 minutes worth of material, like 5 minutes worth of clips and stuff, I can talk about it for 25 minutes, roughly. I can talk about it for 20 minutes, and then the 5 minutes of watching, so 25 minutes total. I get about 5 or 6 minutes of clips together on the podcast night. Actually, I do this days before. I put them all into a compilation, and then I talk about them over the course of like a few hours. I'm supposed to do 30 minutes per video, which condenses down into 8/10 of its original amount. So a 30-minute video will end up being about 24 minutes, give or take. I just cut out the ums and uhs and stuff like that. I also have like a massive backlog of clips that I've collected over the years. And I remember that, like, I have like a photographic memory. I know exactly what people said 2 years ago on this date or whatever. Like, I remember Hank Kunneman rapping for Jesus years ago. This is from late December 2021. Kunneman raps about Jesus. By the way, all of my clips are available on my website, owenmorgan.com/clips. Just go there, owenmorgan.com, and click YouTube clips in the corner. You can see all of them. It's on Dropbox. Not selling you anything. It's free.
Let's rap together. Are you ready? Play me some rap music. Where's this gonna go? You don't even know how to rap, do you? Do you even know how to rap? Oh, yeah. I want you to know as we go that there is something that is true all about you. You see, 2022, it shall be known to be true.
So this is very end of 2021.
Yeah, hey, I'm talking to you. And the devil shall be bound and brought under your feet to the ground.
So the point is, I remember everything. Like, I have a memory that goes all the way back. I remember the time that Marjorie Taylor Greene, in a secret meeting, told people that she intends to shoot anybody coming to her door to offer vaccines. Again, this was from a secret meeting that was given to somebody. I'm not exactly sure who. Some, lobbyist group or something. Early August 2021.
And one more thing on that, you lucky people here in Alabama might get a knock on your door because I hear Alabama might be one of the most unvaccinated states in the nation. Well, Joe Biden wants to come talk to you guys. He's going to be sending one of his police state friends to your front door to knock on the door, take down your name, your address, your family members' names, your phone numbers, your cell phone numbers, probably ask for your social security number, and whether you've taken the vaccine or not. Yeah, well, what they don't know is in the South, we all love our Second Amendment rights. And we're not real big on strangers showing up on our front door, are we?
So basically her saying that, these people should, take out any vaccine workers, basically, is what she's saying. So anyway, I have a photographic memory for this stuff. I remember all of it. Every clip that I have ever played on my podcast, I remember it. Every single one. Main channel or podcast for the past 7 years. And I kind of draw links between different things. So when I, go to like Right Wing Watch Twitter account, which is usually where I find a lot of my stuff, I go to either Hemant Mehta's Twitter account, click on media, just go through some of his stuff, or I go to Right Wing Watch's Twitter account. You have a whole bunch of good stuff. Pete Santilli is the focus right now, Lauren Witzke, Lance Walna, this is Julie Green. Or I go to Ron Filipkowski. He's fantastic. He talks a lot about like Donald Trump or Mike Lindell. Julie Green talks about her a lot too. I mean, there are a varying number of subjects that he covers. This is John Voight. This is Julia Roberts' father. Either Julia Roberts or Angelina Jolie. It's one of them. I think it's Angelina Jolie in retrospect. Anyways, those are usually the three that I go to. And anytime I find a clip of somebody saying something from one of these Twitter accounts, I remember all the way back. every video that I have ever played from these people. I remember them. And I look at the links and think about like the ideas that they've espoused and the positions that they've held over time and where they've moved and all kinds of stuff like that.
President Trump is up against and who's trying to take down the United States of America.
This is Pete Santilli on his TV show. The first clip I ever covered by Pete Santilli was in 2021, I believe. And it was Pete Santilli talking to Deanna Lorraine, basically saying vaccines have graphene oxide and 5G is going to activate on your phones and it's going to take out 1 million people. Yep, sure enough. This is the first video that I ever did on him. This was early August 2021.
The people now that are learning more about the adverse impact of getting vaccinated, they're having regrets about it because we're hearing about this shedding that's going on and
the vaccine shedding.
The shedding and also
this is all completely made up. There is no vaccine shedding, not for the mRNA vaccine. They have no idea what they're talking about.
The activation of the graphene oxide is actually
there's no graphene oxide in the vaccine either. Never was.
Sitting there dormant. But if it gets energized by something like 5G,
and 5G already exists in the United States, and it did at that time too.
It actually kills all the cells around it. That is so crazy to me. I mean, can you imagine if they just like activate and said, "Oh, all right, 1 million people are going to be gone."
Just live in a fantasy land 24/7. But here's something else interesting. This person in the corner here in this Pete Santilli video, this first one I saw on Right Wing Watch, I've done a video not about her, but with her in it. I can even remember her being in videos. Check this one out. This one was Pete Santilli. I believe he was directly calling to destroy Pfizer. He wanted somebody to, in his audience, to go to Pfizer's headquarters and attack it directly. And this one was on early February 2023. This one was a more recent one. See? There she is. I have a photographic memory for this stuff, dude. I remember this stuff like the back of my hand, I'm telling you. So basically, I find these clips that we talk about, and I think about like the past things that these people have said and connect it into a big narrative and talk about where they've moved, politically or ideologically, and talk about, the people connected to them and when they're talking to these people and when they're not and stuff like that. It's all very, I don't know. It's really complex, and I've been trying to teach Alpha Force Zero how to do some of this stuff, but how do you teach somebody, that depth of knowledge after watching, 5,000 clips over the course of like years? That's just something that you have to get in there and do. So anyway, yeah, thank you for the phone call. I appreciate that. And hopefully that shed some light. Oh, and as far as my unfiltered videos go, so that was my fireside chat. And I just talk about whatever on my main channel, as long as it's religion related. As far as my unfiltered channel goes, I actually have a list of, various different YouTube channels or, whatever that I go to, just extremist stuff. I go to Greg Locke's website pretty often. I have a tab here, a group on Chrome. So I'll peruse through Greg Locke's services, watch some of them. If there's some crazy interview that I want to watch, I'll pick that one out. And again, every minute of footage I watch, I get about 3 minutes of commentary out of it. So 1 hour of Flashpoint footage, like this TV show.
On the shoot, talking about
1 hour of this will get me 3 to 4 hours of footage. That's generally how I do it. So anyway, hopefully that shed some light on it. I appreciate the voicemails. They're an interesting question. God, you guys wouldn't believe what I've been doing for the past 5 hours. It's ridiculous. So I got, I don't know if you guys heard of this before, but Chaya Raichik, the creator of Libs of TikTok, the Twitter account, the stochastic terrorist Twitter account, wrote a children's book called No More Secrets. And in this book, she basically says, being gay or trans is like a sweet cupcake that everybody wants. That's quite tantalizing. But you must resist eating this cupcake. It's so important that you don't go anywhere near this cupcake because it's evil, basically. Well, there's a publisher that published that book. It's called Brave Books, right? And it was created by Kirk Cameron originally. And I went through Brave Books. I've been reading a bunch of those books, those children's right-wing extremist propaganda books. I've been going through them on my Telltale Reads YouTube channel. Links in the description if you want to take a look. But I went through some ebooks. Well, here's the thing. Some of the craziest books that they produce are not available in ebook form. So what I did was I went out and I purchased physical copies of these books. This one's by Sean Spicer, The Parrots Go Bananas. I bought physical copies of these books, and I took the binding off of them and scanned them all in directly so that I can show them, like, read them live on air. You have no idea how much of a pain in the ass that was and how long it took. Holy shit. This is Chaya Raichik's book, a Libs of TikTok book. This is, took the binding off of this one, too. This is the first one I did it with, so it's kind of jagged and messed up, but I did my best. By the end of it, I got a lot better at it. Let's see. Then there's Kirk Cameron's book. I swear, I spent 5 hours doing this. I hope you guys appreciate the work I put into this. This one is Kirk Cameron's As You Grow. This one is apparently just kind of a general pro-Jesus message, which, you know, I'm not really opposed to the message in some of these. It's just they live in such a fantasy land that they're putting these out because they believe that they're fighting the left or something. It's nuts. This one is Freedom Day the Asher Way. I haven't read this. This is by Dinesh D'Souza, and it's supposed to be something like a Jewish fox takes advantage of everybody financially, and he learns his lesson not to, like, take advantage of people. I don't know for sure. I'm going to have to go through it. But like I said, if you want to see some of this, it's on my Telltale Reads YouTube channel. So just go to Telltale Reads. It's in the description. And I'll be reading each and every one of these over the next, few weeks. I've already gone through Elephants Are Not Birds, then Anti-Trans Message. That one was done by Jack Posobiec, I think, or something. I don't remember who did all of these, but they're all famous. Activist Mommy did one, Little Lives Matter, which is apparently an anti-abortion message. I did that one on my main channel. Paws Off My Hand Cannon. That one was a pro-gun message for children. This is for, 5-year-old kids. Seriously, it's nuts, dude. Nuts. Anyway. Yeah, check it out. I have Paws Off My Hand Cannon. All of this can be accessed on my website. Just type in, Brave Books or something, and they will all come up. It's owenmorgan.com if you want to check the website for it. But anyways, Paws Off My Hand Cannon's on my main channel. All the rest are on my Telltale Reads channel, so check that out if you're interested. I think that's all of them. Oh, there's an anti-communist one, too, called Freedom Island. No, called The Fight for Freedom Island... Free ice cream or something, and it's just crazy, dude. It's all crazy. Oh yeah, I also got one from Steven Crowder. The Steven Crowder one is deranged, as you would expect. I forget, I don't know where I put the Steven Crowder one, but again, I saved copies of all of these, so they are all on my computer here. Unfortunately, it would be illegal for me to make them publicly available, so I cannot send a copy of any of these to my owenmorgan.com/clips. Usually I upload everything I ever talk about there, but I can't do that with these. That would be illegal. So try to do everything above board to the best of my ability. But this one is a Steven Crowder book, Beautiful Differences, and they talk about diversity, and literally everybody in the book is white. So I don't know. I guess the difference is between kids with red hair and blonde hair and dark hair. Who knows? I have no clue. But anyway, it's just crazy, dude. You just got to read this stuff. You have to read it. So come to my Reads YouTube channel and read it with me. It's unhinged stuff. Oh, check it out. I got this humongous heckin' poster from, you remember I was talking about Brave Books? Yeah, I got this poster with the Brave Books orders that I got. It's huge. It's like a gigantic wall poster. I can't show it all probably, but I'll post a picture of it later. It's Freedom Island. It's got all kinds of places on it. It's ridiculous. It's got Whiggamore Woods, Ferenczi Park, Tokatoke. I hate glossy paper, dude. It's like chewing on tinfoil for me, touching glossy paper. I can't stand it. Anytime I go to a conference or like a theme park or anything at all, I always have Alpha Force Zero carry the guide for me because I can't stand to touch glossy things. Got Hive Haven, Wizard's Way, Meltonville, Nogard Cavern, Shivermore, Cabal Island. Cabal Island, Temple of the Serpent. Oh my god, dude. Seriously. They've got Cabal Island on this. If you guys don't know what the Cabal is, if you've never heard that term before, Marjorie Taylor Greene likes to call it the Cabal, or the Cable, because she doesn't know the origins of the term. The Cabal, the phrase here, you can probably see Cabal Island there, yeah, you can see. There you go, Cabal Island. The Cabal is a term all the way back from, God, I don't even know. It may be 500, even 1,000 years old. I'm not sure how old it is, but it's been around a long time. It originates from the phrase, or from the movement or the whatever called Kabbalah. It's a Jewish mysticism thing where they kind of get into I don't know. It's like astrology for Jews, basically, from my understanding. I haven't really looked into it much, but the origin is Kabbalah. That is where the term Cabal comes from, and it's a very deeply anti-Semitic term that people may not even realize how anti-Semitic the term Cabal is. But yeah, apparently on this Freedom Island poster they have Cabal Island. God, these people are nuts. Kabbalah Mystic Judaism, right? Or Kaaba Mystic Judaism, okay. 1,400 years, interesting. Cabal Island sounds dope AF, yeah, absolutely. Madonna was all about it for a while. Was she? Kabbalah? Pretty interesting. Budman Buds, I met a German World War II soldier in my youth. He said, you not only need to stand up for others' humanity, but for your own to defeat fascism. No one really does that second part now, do they? Dems and left allow personal attacks and don't fight for their own dignity. That's an interesting point you bring up, and it's complicated because, you know, there's an offense and there's a defense position. And if you're on the defense, the best decision is to shut your mouth. Don't say a word, usually, because talking about it or defending yourself or whatever brings more attention to it. So when you're on a public platform, when you're on a stage in front of thousands, tens of thousands, millions, like I am, for example, or, you know, politicians or whatever, when people are on a public platform or in the public eye more generally, if they're being attacked, you need to shut up or you need to attack somebody back. But never acknowledge the attacks being slung at you. That's media PR 101. You don't want to be on the defensive is the thing. You just don't want to be on the defensive because you're on a back foot and it's a lot harder to defend yourself in that situation. People are more likely to believe the accusations than to believe that you're innocent. That's generally why you don't want to defend yourself in most situations. Sometimes you should. It just kind of depends. Anyway, that was a really interesting point. I appreciate the super chat and bringing that up. It's complicated. PR is so complicated. I didn't even realize until, you know, I got involved in PR to some degree inadvertently. Budman Buds, welcome. TBH, been watching you for over 2 years. No way, that's crazy. Always liked your insights, but cursing turned me off, but stuck it out. Glad I did. You do your best. I appreciate that. Yeah, I try not to swear, honestly. There's no point in swearing. If I can't communicate my point without swears, I'm not a very good orator. I really need to be better about that. But sometimes I feel like swears kind of drive a point home really succinctly. And so on occasion, I will swear for emphasis, you know, to make a really important point. But I should just stop. I should just stop swearing entirely.